What's up, people? I pressed the buttons. I did it. We made it back after that break.
Yep.
We are on hour 5.
And it just keeps getting better and better and better.
It's getting better. 7 more hours to go. And I guarantee you it's going to go past midnight, people. Guaranteed. Because 5 people on one round table is just friggin' crazy. What is wrong with us? So we are joined by Matt Wyatt. Matt, how you doing, man? Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you. I'm doing pretty good.
Awesome, man. So, man, you've got an incredible story. It's super long, too. You came on for 2 hours and you barely scratched the surface. So we got to try and kind of keep it a little concise in certain areas tonight, and then we'll have you back on later when you got more time to kind of fill the rest of it in. So you were telling me a little bit about the your Phoenix Lights type experiences. Do you want to start with that?
Yeah, I'd like to kind of touch back to the first one, if people don't remember, where I was at it was a Naval Space Command base underground, kind of southwest of Phoenix, in a place called Rainbow Valley. And I talked about I saw the, triangle lights and all these huge red pulsing orbs and orbs. And a few days later, this gray came to me and did something, and I saw inside their minds and all this crap, crazy stuff. But after that, I was kind of messed up for a few years because it's really hard to explain. I just didn't really know what was going on.
Right.
Then I kind of, got back to normal, and I was with my pregnant girlfriend one day. I was about 21 then, and for some reason, I just had this feeling I needed to get out of the house and go somewhere. Didn't really matter where. So I did. We decided to go in the store to pick up a pack of smokes or something. And as we're driving back, something made me turn my head, and I looked, and to the south, kind of in the same area where this Naval Space Command base is, there were these huge golden lights just hanging in the sky, just sitting there. And I just knew automatically, oh, that's more of those things. And I stopped, and we both got out and looked at them. And then my next door neighbor, she actually was driving to the store or something, and she pulled alongside the road, and she got out. It's like, oh, this is just like the X-Files. So we're sitting there watching, and then we saw 2 jets from Luke Air Force Base, which is on that side of the valley, fly towards them, scramble really quick and fly towards them. And these things, the jet got close, and these things kind of blinked out, just kind of dimmed and just disappeared. And then they pop up again somewhere else, and you see the jets flying where they were, and then they're sitting over here somewhere else. And then the jets would go over that, and they dim, disappeared, and they pop up somewhere else. And this went on for a few minutes, and then they finally disappeared, and the jets flew around for a little while longer. And then, I guess they were patrolling, quite a while, and I ended up leaving, getting bored. And I was at home all night, and I actually was just looking at the sky most of that evening, thinking, oh, are we going to come back? Oh, my God. It's like finally someone else saw us with me, that's close to me, and I'm not crazy type thing. And I ended up calling the base to ask them why they had jets going towards these things. And they told me, they actually routed me to the tower commander, and I told him what I saw. And the only thing he told me is, that's classified information. I can't tell you what that's about. And that was the end of that conversation. Well, later on that night, I guess in the middle of the night, something happened when we were sleeping. She woke up and told me that she had dreams of little doctors messing with her stomach all night and doing stuff to her. I don't remember anything. That's what she told me. And that was kind of odd. So this kind of thing with these started to happen every few days for me. Every 3 days, I get a feeling in my solar plexus, and I would just know I have to go, and I'd drive out, usually out in the middle of nowhere, and these things would pop up, and they make all these weird patterns in the sky, blink in and blink out. I think they're interdimensional craft, and they go somewhere else, come back. And these patterns, like, you know, I don't understand what they meant. This went on for, I mean, altogether about 10 years. But to begin with, is like every 3 days of this happening, I'd go out and see them. And one of the things I do when I would go out and see them is I'd sit there almost like I was in a trance. It's really hard to describe. But I'd start flashing my lights at them in patterns of 3. Like 1, 2, like dim, bright, dim, dim, bright, dim, dim, bright, dim. So 3, 3, 3. I never really understood what that meant until, you know, lately I'm kind of seeing it has something to do with some projects I may have been in the, you know, when I was a kid. But, you know, even those things were, I felt they're benevolent, not like the first ones. It still drove me crazy because no one, you know, who could I talk to about this stuff? Even my girlfriend who saw it with me, she's like not really believing what she even saw.
Right.
Or what, you know, the dream she had. You know, so I when I get the feeling, I started drinking really heavy too because like it drove me nuts. When I drive out there and see him, I have a 6-pack of beer with me, and I scream at him, "What the fuck do you want?" And I chuck my, you know, beer bottle out in the sky, and it was this crazy stuff. It started to slow down probably after a couple of years. You know, it happened maybe once or twice a month. You know, got less and less. And I had ended up breaking up with my girlfriend. We had our son and everything. And I think I was about 28 at this time. I was driving to my new girlfriend's house, and one just popped up down the end of the street I was on, 75th Avenue, and just sat there. And I just looked at it and like, you know, what the hell do you guys want? I'm tired of this. You don't explain anything to me. You don't tell me anything. You just sit there with your lights, and you know, it's like, this is stupid. So I didn't even pay attention to it. I went, you know, and went to, you know, to her house, and we slept. And I woke up in the middle of the night. It was about 3 a.m. and there was this little short hooded being by the door, and my head was facing at the foot of the bed. For some reason, I was kind of sitting up looking at it, and it told me this. It didn't speak, but it told me this. It was in my head. It said, "We don't use emotions like you." And that's all I remember from that. Now, a few days later, my girlfriend ended up telling me that she was pregnant. So, years later, I put it all together because she told me she was pregnant, but I didn't really believe her at that point. And we ended up breaking up and stuff. And, you know, a few years ago, I actually put it together like, oh, she was telling the truth, because that happened with my, you know, first girlfriend. And they're doing something with, you know, my DNA line. That's, you know, I was actually told that too by some people. So, the last time I saw one of those, I moved to China a few months after that. And I was in China for like 4 to 5 years. And I ended up falling in love with someone there. You know, we got really close, and I was talking to her about all this stuff one time. And she didn't seem to not believe me. And I was telling her about the yellow ones, or golden ones. And one of them popped up in the sky, and we were just looking at it like, oh, see? And, you know, so she knew about that. I'd say with those ones, it's probably been, I'd say, if I want to count them in the times I've had experience with them, probably about 50 times. You know, it's crazy if I go back and look at all the stuff that happened with those. So that's kind of my Phoenix Light story. Oh, I do have one more thing with that. There was one time, it was my early 20s. I think this is kind of between the, kind of when it first started to happen. I had a friend come from back east, and we were hanging out. And I I get these weird feelings like I have to go somewhere, and I knew I had to go out by that Naval Space Command base. And we went out there, and it's really in the middle of nowhere. The only way to get there is down a dirt road that's a gas pipeline. And we ended up going down there. I was telling about all the stuff that happened, and we got to this one little mountain that I had been on before with my other two friends that I had my first experience with, my full conscious experience. And we were smelling gas really, really bad. It was like almost dawn. And like, what the hell is that? But right at dawn, we were looking out towards where the base was, and we saw all these silver discs-like things moving along the ground. I'm like, what the hell is that? And I knew there was a railway kind of out there, and it looked like they were being loaded onto rail cars. And that goes towards San Diego by interstate, Gila Bend and all that. Or there's Army bases out there too.
So it looked like they were moving UFOs by train?
Right. I think what had happened, because that base had originally had those red UFOs for my first experience, and I think something went on with the golden ones and the red ones, and they were kind of moving out these other UFOs that are more physical in form. That's just my what I'm thinking. I don't know if that's true or not.
Is it possible they could have been ARVs, alien reproduction vehicles, like things that had been retro-engineered and built here on Earth by human hands, but using alien technology that had been, engineered from crashes?
Yeah, that's exactly what I think. I think the red ones that I talked about the first time I was on your show, I think they worked with Naval Space Command, the SSP stuff. And that's the technology that the limit, not the high technology, but it's still pretty high, that humans work with, along with there's some pretty negative factions that they're involved with, like the robotic greys and, reptilians and stuff like that. I believe something happened with that faction. There's like internal power struggles going on, and they were moving all these things to another base, maybe. After we were seeing this going on, moving this stuff for like an hour or so, and I ended up driving down to it because I wanted to get a closer look, and realized that smell of the gas was their way of shutting down that whole area, telling everyone there was a gas leak, because there was no other traffic, except for the cars that were parked along where the railway was. And so I started driving toward these cars, and some lady got in her car and started driving really fast towards us. And as she almost passed us, she had a camera in her hand, was snapping, you can see her snapping, snap, 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 snap. I'm like, man, dude, we got to get out of here. So turned around and just left, got out of the area, because who knows what would have happened if we would have got even closer. So that's kind of my Phoenix Lights story.
It's far out.
Yeah, man. Totally. So, now I know you wanted to touch on, kind of what is in store for everybody. It's been a kind of theme tonight. I guess I'll ask you that. Maybe it'll segue into it. We've been asking everybody tonight what they think disclosure will actually look like.
Yeah, it's recently I heard that program with the Sandia crew and Sue Walker saying that disclosure was going to come in 2024, something like that, late 2023. But, it'll be not necessarily UFOs landing on the White House lawn, but, them showing up over every major metropolitan area, and there not being any doubt anymore as to whether or not we're still, alone in the universe.
Right. What I see happening, and what I believe is going to happen, I think it's coming in stages. Disclosure it's already here,
mm-hmm.
but no one's paying attention really, or looking
right
at it that way. I mean, I see every day, actually, nowadays I see UFOs every day.
Mm-hmm.
I see them hanging over the Rockies. Usually they're in their cloud cover. Looks like huge weird how do you say it?
Lenticular.
Lenticular clouds.
I pronounced
Right.
something correctly, guys. G off.
Yeah, I mean, I see them every day sitting there waiting. I don't know what they're actually waiting for. I kind of know, but I think it's going to happen in stages. I mean, like even yesterday, I was watching Ancient Aliens, even though I know it's like old news to a lot of us. But it's like a new series, and it's called Ancient Aliens Declassified.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess their episodes were giving a lot more detailed information about Mars. They're showing all these photos of things that most people haven't seen. They're showing isotope ratios that compare to when Earth did nuclear testing, how it's the same in the Martian atmosphere and on the rock samples. All this kind of scientific proof. They started to go into Annunaki, which I really never noticed that they did before, which is something that a lot of people in the disclosure movement don't talk about. And on certain cults, I'd say.
Mick,
discuss.
the gentleman we had on last hour, Mick, had said that what he had felt was what he had gained through some channeling session that he had done was that the Anunnaki are in control of the Dracos and what he's calling the Arcturians, which he's saying are what people refer to as Nordics, and they're the ones that are running the programs. The space programs.
Now, see, I've also heard of Nordics coming from the Pleiades and the Procyon as well. So, exactly who are the Nordics, and are there more than one group of them?
It feels like it's just a case of a bunch of different entities that look similar. You know what I mean?
Via
Right,
convergent evolution, perhaps.
So, I mean, do you feel like the Anunnaki are in charge of the shit? Like, are they wardens? Are they the wardens of the planet, so to speak?
I think it's extremely complicated, and not just all Anunnaki are doing bad things.
Right.
Just like, not all Pleiadians are doing good things, or vice versa. It's just like Earth is and people are. Everyone has their own way of doing things, and some are good and some are pretty shitty.
Right.
As far as the Anunnaki go, I know that they're the ones who created these bodies. They had a huge hand in creating these bodies. So they're definitely involved in all that. They some of them have definitely run the negative side of things. Some of them are against that. It's complicated. I know a lot of them lived on Mars before.
Right.
Some might be still there. I know some work with the reptilians. It's almost like a big clusterfuck, actually.
Well, let me ask you this. We've all heard people describe a race called the pre-Adamites. It comes from mostly like Corey Good and those type of people. And do you think that is the Anunnaki? Do you know? I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with what I'm talking about, right?
I went down in Antarctica and all that. No, I think the Anunnaki are, at least the ones from Nibiru, they look very human-like. They're extremely tall because they have higher bioelectricity, but they're human-like. They have the same personalities we have, basically. But I think there was some stuff going on down in Antarctica where they were doing experiments with this black goo stuff, which has all kinds of implications, mixing species, making hybrids, and so I don't believe that the Anunnaki are those beings that they're talking about. I believe a lot of the information is disinformation, actually, too. One thing I noticed is when Good talks about the Anshar, the Anshar are like the Igigi. They're the Anunnaki, but not the royal families. And they live underground, but that's never mentioned. Mm-hmm. It's so hard to put the points, but I believe what they're doing in Antarctica wasn't a good thing. And there's probably a reason why there was a huge flood and froze them all into the ground. And as far as the experience with experiments with the humans and making these bodies, mixing their DNA with whatever we were before, had some weird offshoots like the giants and all that stuff too.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. So, man. So, trying to think of a good segue for that. I mean, what else did you have that you wanted to touch on this in between session that we didn't necessarily get to last time?
I wanted to talk a little bit about my last major experience, which was in 2016, because it might help some people to know when they're starting to see this stuff in the skies or what's happening, to know what is a good thing and what is a bad thing, from our standpoint. And this will touch into what I see is happening too. So in like 2009, I started to notice this strange stuff kind of growing in me. I thought it was like some sort of weird fungus, and I just ignored it. And then,
like kind of like Morgellons or whatever.
Yeah, Morgellons. And I didn't really know anything about it, but it was weird because it was like coming at me. It's like, what the hell is this shit? But I ignored it, and then in 2012, I really noticed it. Then I ignored it again because I didn't want to think about it, which is just the way I am sometimes. And then in 2016, somehow it had got overactivated, and I literally had this shooting out underneath my fingernails. It was like coming out my pores somewhere. I went to the doctor, like, we don't know what this is. And one night it was like really active in me. And it actually, I was so active, I was able to see images of things. It's really hard to explain. Like I was connected to something else. One night when it happened, I saw, it was a TV screen in my head. I saw like 4 women look at me. They were very beautiful, but they had like really cold eyes. It was like cold. And the last person that looked at me was this guy with long blonde hair and blue eyes. And I was like, what the hell is that? And then like an hour later, I heard somebody walking next to my window, and also these weird beeping sounds. And I got scared and kind of like checked things out. The next night, I started to put it together. I was like, okay, this is like some sort of weird transhumanism thing, some sort of, what they're doing is making a new type of human, and it goes into it's in the chemtrails and in the food and all that stuff. But I talked about that feeling in my solar plexus before. I had that right then, and it was like, sometimes it warns me. So I just felt it. It was like, oh, something's not right. And I felt it felt like there was a helicopter over, but you couldn't hear it. I just felt the pressure of the blades. And then the dog next door started barking really loud. So I ran outside and I looked, and there was this light just sitting in the sky. It looked like a star. I was like, oh, that's one of the first ones that I talked about. They get star turn red and all this stuff. It was sitting there. I was looking at it, and as I was looking at it, I could feel it looking at me, and it started to move right towards me. And when it got, I don't know, maybe within a block of me, it stopped in the middle of the sky, and then it turned in. This is crazy, but it turned into a small Learjet that just sat there. And then it started to move away, and it had this weird rumbling sound. I pieced it together later that they can use holographic technology to make them look like airplanes. There's a lot of people with video stuff too. But as it turned away, then I noticed other ones hanging over the city, and some were making grid-like patterns. And something warned me just to get out of there, to leave. It's not a rational thing. Usually I'm not scared of those things, but it just kept wanting me to go. So I took off, got a few things, and took off. And I had really weird things happen. Like, there was like this car that was like driving out, the same car. I could see it driving around and driving all slow. And I was like, just felt something. Okay, stay away from this person. And I was walking, so I didn't have a car back then. There's some dude like literally walked out of the field and just stood there staring at me, and I didn't have a good feeling from him. I had a police car come out. I mean, really follow me really slow, and it stopped ahead of me. And then I heard one of the cops say to the other one, "Why can't we just put 2 in his head?" And I heard the other guy say, "No, we can't." So I was freaked out, man. And I was seeing these UFOs moving around too. And I kept thinking, oh, this is it. They're doing something horrible right now. I ended up walking around all night with this, felt like it was curious. It's like a paranoid fantasy, but it really happened because other people saw it too. I ended up walking around at night, just freaked out. That I was okay. So like the next morning, I was like, I'm getting out of Phoenix. I don't know what's happened. I think things are going down. I was going to go up to Sedona where my sister lived. So I ended up going to the other part of the valley to wait for her to pick me up. And by that time it was almost dark, and I started to see the same thing again. And there's like 2 lights just hanging in the sky. They had like a reddish color to them, but they can turn white. And there were 2 more of these weird jet light things making grid like patterns. And then I could see people along the streets. Oh, another thing I didn't mention about the night before. Some places I heard tons of gunshots going off, and then I'd hear like a weird clanging, whizzing sound right after them. I couldn't figure out what that was. I think it's some sort of frequency thing to make people forget what was going on. But that same thing started to happen the next night. I was hearing like different places, tons of gunshots, and that weird clanking, whizzing sound. Finally, my sister made it, and we were driving up to Sedona, and there was this mansion along I-17, and there was one of these red ones just sitting there, and it had a beam going over the entire mansion. And there was other ones hanging along the freeway, and as we drive underneath them, they would like have a little blue light that would flash, and I could feel some sort of frequency thing going on. We got up to Sedona, and I was exhausted. I ended up falling asleep, but I was talking about this stuff on Facebook, and my son came up there freaked out. He woke me up at 4 a.m. He's like, Dad, you got to come outside. And I did, and there's 2 of them kind of sitting very close to the house, sitting there. And every time we look at them, they move and then like disappear. And then we turn our eyes and they pop back up. Like our observation of them affected the way affected something about them. But the same thing, he said the same thing would happen to him. And his girlfriend was there, and my nephew also.
That's pretty interesting. You think that was like maybe some type of quantum effect? You know how when you observe something on the quantum level, just observing it changes its state?
I believe it definitely has something to do with that.
I hear Sedona's jumping, man. I have friends who spend half of the year out there. They go out there during the summer and then come back here for the winter. And, I hear it's quite the hotspot for unexplainable aerial phenomenon.
Oh, yeah, there's all kinds of weird stuff going on out there, man.
But it sounds like a beautiful place, and I'd love to go check it out sometime.
Man, I wanted to... Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask you real quick before we got way too far away from it. It was right at the beginning you described hearing a beeping outside. What what did that sound like? It was just like it's like a truck backing up kind of beep? Or
no,
was it like
some sort of device, because it was wordless. I heard this guy walking, like kind of heard him stop. I think it was some sort of device.
So it was like a real faint beep.
Yeah, it was just like it's not like a truck backing up or anything. Almost like just like two beeps
watch,
or something.
Like a watch or something, like beep beep.
No, it was a little deeper than that. I just in my head I pictured some sort of device that can maybe test things, because I know that this stuff, it works off of works off of electromagnetic frequency. It's connecting people to a system, basically. So it puts out frequencies, and if I had overactivated it and we're part of a project, they're probably making sure I wasn't going to, go overboard with it or something. I don't know.
Right. Now, did you have anything, suffer any type of consequences or anything last time you were on the show?
Well, I at that point I've been talking about this stuff on online for a long time. I know there's a lot of people also that maybe don't have the best intentions, checking things out. Mm-hmm. But at this point, I don't feel they can really do anything. I mean, I don't know. It's just a feeling they can't do anything.
Right.
So, but as far as the last time, I ended up going back to that Naval Space Command base and took some photos and all this weird, purple energy coming off it. But I was actually doing ley line work there too, which I didn't even know how I do. I just know I'm doing it.
Right.
And then I went to Contact in the Desert, and before I got there was some sort of weird base out in Indio. I'd stopped by, and I was doing ley line work there too. I had this black SUV sitting not too far watching me.
Now, what sort of work do you do when you do ley line work? Like, I'd like to know more about this.
It's like you can feel these areas on the Earth that are kind of more magnetically charged. They have a lot more energy on them. A lot of these bases are along these places.
Yep.
The one I was doing work at was along the 33rd parallel, and it's not even like you're thinking, oh, I got to go do this and do this. It's kind of like you go there and it's like your own vibration kind of mixes with that and makes little changes. It's not really something rational, but I could feel it happening.
Do you go into it with an intent? Like, are you tapping into the ley line just to commune with the Earth's energy, or are you using it to achieve an end?
To both. To achieve an end, because a lot of these power grids have been used for negative purposes for a very, very long time. Yeah, and there's a lot of people, quote unquote, that are here to do this, to help change it to a better system, to take power away from these corrupt beings and people. So that's kind of you connect to Earth, but you also change the vibration of it. And sometimes you don't even realize what you're doing. You just end up there, and it's like, oh, okay. it's wild. And even before I had done the first show with you, I was doing that up in Sedona. There was an underground base there too, and for some reason I wanted to go hiking. And I ended up hiking, and at one point, like all of a sudden, I got this on video and I got pictures too. There was like literally like 2 or 3 armed Apaches, 2 transport things, and they all like flew towards me, and then I just watched them and they kind of moved away. I was like, oh, that's weird. And I kept walking, and there was this black SUV that was just sitting there. So I got some photos of it, and then I turned around and walked the other way to see what it did, and it started to follow me really slow. So I was doing something up there too. And there was another time I went to the other entrance at Enchantment Resort. There's one up there, and I got up there, and another black SUV pulled out. It had the license plate that said Marvel 2. But I was sitting there, I could see all these light codes in my head, and I was like putting them into some sort of lock or something. And I had someone who actually works in these bases tell me, it's like, dude, they're freaked out by what you're doing. I was like, dude, I don't even know half of what I'm doing. I just know I'm doing it. So, I mean, it's like confirmations of things, which is pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So my intent of telling that story about what happened in Phoenix with those lights, the red ones, or they can turn white, is I believe that there's kind of a war going on here on Earth that's really unseen. There's a faction that wants to use humanity for bad things like they've done to all of us that have been in the programs, or
like slave labor and experiments and adrenochrome farming and all that fun stuff.
Exactly, and I feel very strongly that those ones are part of that group. So I mean, if all the stuff comes down and comes out in the open, and people are seeing these things in the skies, just use your intuition, but also, be wary, because some aren't what they appear to be.
Right. Absolutely. I would say definitely, if you are in contact with an entity, make sure it is the entity that it appears to be. No question. So, you guys, if you got questions for Matt, you want to hop over to realitybrief.net and put them in the chat room there, and we'll get them to them. So if you're watching on Facebook or over at, and yes, we're back live on Facebook. I know it went down. So if you, in case you were wondering, you can only broadcast live on Facebook for 5 hours straight.
That's it.
They cut you off there. You got to start doing it.
Yes. Okay. I was wondering what was going on with that.
Yep. So, okay, let's see. That'll take a little bit for it to get to him. So, what else we got?
What's it? Oh, go ahead, sir.
What's that?
Hello?
No, yeah, you there? Go ahead, sir.
Yeah,
you were gonna
I'm
say
here.
Something.
Oh, I was going to say that that ties into what I see happening. That story, about the Morgellons and
Right.
and the certain factions that are using this technology and transhumanism for bad things. I see that happening on a worldwide scale. The stuff they're putting in the atmosphere is part of that. It's in the food and water, but there is still a war going on, and all these people are either for or against Trump and all that. I'm not condoning the guy or anything, but I think that their faction is a better thing than the other one. I think that they're cleaning up a lot of the pedophiles and all that, is a good thing, that are tied to the adrenochrome and human trafficking and in the galaxy and all that stuff. But I think it's going to get messy as more of the stuff comes out and people realize what actually has happened and what's gone on. They're going to be furious, frightened, and scared. And I don't think it's going to be too pretty. So, disclosure is not all love and dovey light and all this stuff like a lot of people think. So there's a lot of things that have happened that are very painful. And I still think there are a lot of issues, with the stuff they're doing to us with, you can just walk out and see what they're doing in the sky. It's like, okay, who is really in control here? Why are they doing this? Or is it better for us to have this happen? Where's our voice in it? There's all kinds of questions. And so some of them I know how to answer, and some I don't. I have been talking to some of these people or beings that are part of this also, and what they've been telling me is kind of frightening. Their collective is not originally from here, or maybe even this dimension, and they want us. They want our planet to become part of their collective. So what they're doing with the transhumanism thing is linking everyone up to that. It's making people into a quasi-crystalline being. It's a quasi-crystalline substance that reproduces in that manner, and it will link you up to their overmind. Basically, you hear people talking. I don't know if you hear it, but people are talking about being part of this one mind collective, but that's through their technology. And I don't know whether it's a good thing for us or not. You know, if their act is cleaned up and they're not using us as energy sources, it's a good thing. But if they are, then we got some things to really,
Yeah, we definitely definitely got a discussion to be had there. Hey, buddy, guess what? I'm not your food after all.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I cracked that joke about what happens if you eat a Draco in the last hour. Like, if you manage to get a hold of a Draco and eat him, do you gain his powers? Are you telepathic all of a sudden?
I don't know, Dan.
I don't
Why don't you
know.
go
Probably
Draco
tastes
hunting?
like chicken.
Yeah, it's probably all greasy like alligator. Because I've had fried alligator. Oh no, what's it? Maybe the fish head aliens, but they might be good.
Right. Well, it's always the blue ones.
Yep.
Я пришел дать эту песню.
No. All right, so we are approaching. We got about 2 minutes left. So anything you need to get out there in that last 2 minutes? Let me see. Check the YouTube for questions. Any questions? Nope.
No, I think I kind of covered most of the stuff. I would like to come on again and
Oh, absolutely.
go into more depth of what I know it's happening. And because there's a lot to it, man. It's really hard to even go into. But
I know, man. It's just such a short time, but in the
may have
name of 12 hours. So
We may have to start doing a show twice a week, though.
no, we're not doing it.
You know you want to.
No way, man. Just real quick before we jump, Dan wants to know what you think of the Sandia crew.
Yeah, I do actually. There's a group of Greys that claim that they're from Zeta Reticuli and that they're in contact with this lady named Sue Walker. And, they say that Disclosure's coming in 2024, and they're definitely part of the Love and Light Squad. Like, they say that they want, they're here because they want humanity to evolve. They want to, guide us sort of in the right direction, and they're the first ones that have actually taken to social media. They're on Twitter. And so apparently there's, first contact in the form of, Greys accessing our social media. And that's what it's purported to be. And I was just wondering if you'd heard of them or if you had any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I've heard of them. Actually, there's a lot more of them than just the Greys on social media. You'd be shocked. But they're from what I know, there are different, just like people and all these beings, there are different factions of the Greys. Some were actually created using that technology I was talking about as like biological robots. You could put your consciousness in them, move around. Other ones have their own awareness, but maybe part of this negative collective. Other ones were probably able to break free and maybe trying to help. As far as the Sandia group and what they're saying, I don't know if it's linked to Zeta Talk at all, but they've been talking about this pole shift coming up and what to do, for quite a while. So if they're giving out that kind of information, I believe it is because they want to help. But as far as their help having a happy ending at the very end of it, I don't know. I couldn't say, because sometimes, what people or things say are to manipulate for another end that we can't see. But there's like good and bad and everything. But I from my feeling about them, I think they're trying to help in the way they can.
Right on. Cool.
All right, well, that's about all. We're about out of time for this hour, so we're gonna go to our 80-hour break for you guys to watch. Someone was like, sorry, man, we need a break, guys. I mean, come on, can't we get 15 minutes an hour? 12 hours? Come on. That's like what? How many does that work out to? an hour and a half out of 12 hours or something.
Which is still fewer commercials than you're going to get on actual commercial radio. So, and
No
at least
question.
ours are entertaining.
So, Matt, thanks for coming on, and
Yeah, thank you.
pleasure to
Thank
have
you for
you
being
as
part
always.
of this big, wonderful thing that we have going on today. And be safe out there, buddy.
Cool. Appreciate you having me.
We'll be in touch.
You guys have a good day.
You too.
All right. Bye.
Welp! It's that time again.
So, it's time for the giveaway.
We're giving stuff away.
We're giving stuff away
Just
again.
giving you stuff.
So, here's the drill, if you're new to watching this. First person to send a message to facebook.com/realitybrief or realitybrief@gmail.com gets a stickers, kick, reality brief. Do it up. That's the deal. Oh my god, it's only 5 times I've done that and I'm already, I can't do it anymore.
I can do it.
Alright, you do it for the rest of it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I know we didn't have any more follow-up questions. Sorry, man. We'll try to make it more interesting for the listeners next time. Okay. I'm sorry. So, next hour we've got Eric Rains on, energy worker. We're going to be talking a little bit about his work with SSP veterans and how all that stuff kind of plays out. So, see you in about 15 minutes, guys.
We'll be back.
Hi there, it's Justin. Is there a band that you love and you wish you could turn everybody else in the world on to? That's us every week over at Deprogram. Get together, we talk about a band, we give you a top 10 starter kit for you and anybody else who wants to listen to that band. It's pretty simple, it's a great time, and it's a great way for you to discover new artists. You can find it on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you can download your fine podcasts. That's Deprogram. Learn them and love them, people.
Hey, buddy. Want to buy some memes? This one's banned in the EU. Only $10 for the dank ones.
Oh hi, Space Jesus again. If you're looking for a little redemption, hop on over to patreon.com/realitybrief or redbubble.com/people/realitybrief and think about giving a little something to that cause. Why donate to the pot and church when you can donate to some pot instead?